We just got some new details about Assassin's Creed Shadows, how romance and seasons and social stealth may actually work, and some open world changes and some other features that I am really excited about. Let's break it all down. Firstly, I wanted to show off some of the exclusive gameplay that we were provided as part of Ubisoft Forward, which hasn't been given to everyone. I did show some of it in my preview, which you should go and check out as well, but I've just been busy with Elden Ring and haven't actually been able to show off a lot of the gameplay and talk more about Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is what I wanted to do today because I have a lot to say about this game and I can't wait to see more of it. But what I really like about Yasuke and Naoe is how they have their own big differences in their playstyle, which we've obviously seen plenty of from, the big brooding of Yasuke and sort of the stealthiness of Naoe. But it's also in the way that they deal with enemies, and they both have options to deal with scenarios in different ways. Like Yasuke does have this long gun that he can use to deal with things from range, and Naoe also has her options as well to deal with things from range. But I think what's really going to be interesting about them is also outside of combat, as it's not just in combat that they have their unique playstyles. There's differences will also appear in towns and interacting with NPCs. Like in the gameplay walkthrough, we saw how a lot of the adults in the towns as well as the kids interacted with Yasuke, like the kids, standing there and looking at this giant hulking samurai as he's walking through town, and the adults sort of being oh, don't want any part of that, and sort of getting out of the way. It was mentioned by Mark Alexis Code in a GameFile interview that Naoe is invisible by default for NPCs in the open world, whereas Yasuke is impossible to blend in unnoticed. So there will actually be differences to them in not just in combat, but in the way that they play in the open world as well, being that Yasuke is completely unable to blend in, whereas Naoe will be able to, just because of her, not only her stature, but just the way that she is a bit more of a stealth shinobi sort of playstyle. You may also be wondering about that social stealth element of Assassin's Creed, which did return slightly in Valhalla as well as Mirage, but apparently it's not going to be a part of Assassin's Creed Shadows, according to Joe Raptor, who shared a quote on Reddit, with the question being, is there social stealth for her or for Yasuke? With Ubisoft responding, not really. So we have a different approach. We don't use social stealth because Naoe and the shinobi, the way we set up now is more of a warrior shinobi that goes into light and shadows. She shouldn't be there when she does a mission, so there's nothing she does in the street that is classic stealth, social stealth, which does, I guess, in a way make sense, right? They're really focusing on the way that she is going to be manipulating the light in the game, right? How you can turn off lights or destroy them, and how that will actually affect you being seen and traveling around. So it seems like a lot of that social stealth, let's say dev time, right, has really gone into that light system, which I actually do kind of appreciate. But it's not all that will affect it though, right? Seasons will definitely impact that with what's going to be available to you during each season. And we'll talk about that a little bit when we touch on seasons in this video. But what I'm really interested to see with these characters is which one I'm going to gravitate more towards. The more I hear about Naoe, she definitely just seems like the traditional assassin's type, but also very overpowered compared to Yasuke, because she can do all of these stealthy things in combat as well as just fight things straight up. But then also outside of combat, NPCs aren't going to be goggling at you the whole time, and much easier for all of that stealth aspect of her kit as well. So really interested to see which one I'm going to gravitate towards. I'm curious as well. Let me know in the comments. Are you more interested in Naoe or Yasuke? If you want to live out your assassin fantasies in real life, you now can with the new Assassin's Creed in Magic the Gathering set. Thanks to Wizards of the Coast, I've been playing the new set and having an absolute blast. I played some on stream the other day and won 2 of my 3 games, so I'll count that as a victory. I opened the starter set and some booster packs and pulled this incredible Mjolnir Storm Hammer, which is not only one of my favorite weapons in Valhalla, it's now one of my favorite Magic cards as well. The art is incredible. It looks like it's straight out of the game. It's not just about the cool art though, I mean, come on, just look at these basic lands. Fun fact here, there's an assassin hiding in every single one. The Ivor starter deck is all about the equipment like Mjolnir or Excalibur. By equipping these artifacts to your creatures, you can gain special effects like Mjolnir that when you attack a creature, you can tap that creature and stun it for the next turn. All your favorite assassins are here with themed abilities and artwork and more. If you want to check out this amazing new set or any of the other Magic the Gathering cards, click the link in the description down below. Thanks Wizards of the Coast for sponsoring this video. During the IGN Live, Associate Narrative Director Brooke Davis confirmed that there will be, in fact, romance in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Just like in Valhalla and Odyssey, now as there are two different characters, she mentioned that it was one of the challenges of designing these characters and their relationships. I definitely am really interested about this whole romance aspect of the game, right? Like, can you try and have a relationship with the same character, like as both Yasuke and Naoe at the same time? Are they gonna like fight it out if they're both like chasing the same person? Is there any dialogue about that in terms of like their interactions? Because even if we're only playing as, say, Naoe most of the time or half the time and then Yasuke, these characters still exist, right? So like assumedly the NPCs will know that, you know, that they've already interacted with Naoe or Yasuke or something like that. I think there's a lot of fun things that could be had there. I'm really interested to see a bit more about the whole romance system and understand more about the relationships as a whole, right? Like if you side with, say, one NPC about something, right? Like as Naoe, does that also impact their relationship with Yasuke? Is there differences there? I'm just curious about how that's all going to play out. But obviously we'll hear more about that once we do get our hands on the game or we get closer to launch. Seasons are a massive new feature in Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I'm really interested to see how this does legitimately impact gameplay. Obviously there's all the marketing speak that we have all probably seen too much of at this point about how the seasons are going to change in missions, like with, you know, the frozen water being one example where, you know, there's a pond in the gameplay walkthrough that Naoe uses to like stealth through, but in the winter the pond will be frozen, so she won't be able to do that. But in a GameSpot interview, it was mentioned that not only is there the overall season system that cycles through spring, summer, autumn, and winter, the length of each season is dictated by your progress through the campaign, and each one has unique features linked to gameplay. Spring and summer will have more long bushes to hide in, while winter weather makes the game more challenging as these hiding spots are removed and environmental hazards appear. An example we've seen of these environmental hazards, it's like ice shards on rooftops, so if you crawl along the rooftops, the ice shards might drop and make noise. A dynamic weather system adds to the authenticity of the world around you, creating a living ecosystem. Now, interestingly about this quote here is that it's mentioned that seasons will change as part of the campaign, but in a separate GameSpot interview, they said that that's not entirely correct in a way. So seasons won't just change because of the campaign. Chris Benoit, the game director, said on a GameSpot live interview at Summer Games Fest, he mentioned that if you spend time out in the open world, the game will track the time and the season will change dynamically as well. Once the open world is open, so assume that's like once you, in all these Assassin's Creed games, you sort of get past that point where the title screen appears. You know, in Valhalla, you arrive at England, for example, right? So once the open world is open, we put the seasons on a clock so that registers how long you've played. So the interesting part about that is, say, if you just like ignore the main story and go and do all the bunch of like side activities and collectibles, etc., like exploring the world, the seasons will actually change dynamically, which is, I think, going to be really fun to see. Like, you know, what if there's like a lake, for example, right? And you like swim under there in summer, for example, and there's like a chest or something down there. But in winter, you might explore and just completely miss that because the lake's like frozen over. Like, interested to understand some of the more depth in those systems and, you know, if it does actually affect what's available to you in terms of collectibles and exploration, depending on what time of the year you're actually looking for that. And speaking of that whole open world system and setup, we do obviously know that this is going to be the next open world Assassin's Creed, which they have been for quite a while now. But something that was maybe a little too obnoxious to me was the open world size of Valhalla. Like, I love open world games. It's one of the reasons why we have a channel here dedicated to open world games. But Valhalla to me felt overly large, like too much here. It was like an extremely long game with a lot of regions to go and explore and collectibles and things to do. But it was mentioned in a Sports Illustrated interview that happened at Summer Games Fest that it's smaller than Valhalla. The map that we have at launch is only the one map as well. So it's closer to Origins, I would say. The landscape of Japan is full of mountains as well. So there are big mountains that you can venture into, but there's not much for you to do. It's very steep, very dense with forest. So much of the content is in the valleys of Japan. that's an interesting point to think about as well, is that if the content is really dense to those valleys, like those big open areas where there isn't going to be much there, the world might actually seem larger than it actually is if everything is sort of condensed into those valleys. And I'm interested to see how that actually plays in terms of gameplay, whereas a lot of these worlds are typically designed with much more open spaces where, you know, you run into content, let's say every 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Like if you're just exploring, you run into something, you know, if you get lost on a mountain, are you just going to be stuck there and not encounter anything? I find that hard to believe, that there's going to be nothing on top of those mountains, you know. Another interesting detail from a GameSpot interview is that these synchronization points that we're all familiar with Assassin's Creed will not reveal icons on your map or have a spinning drone shot around you. Instead, you'll see points of interest highlighted. Ubisoft is aiming to create a more organic world to explore with fewer icons on your map, but synchronization locations can still be used as fast travel points. I do really like this, like having not only the fast travel points, but having less icons on your map will definitely help, not only with immersion and that whole element of things, but also not feeling like the game is a giant checklist that you're just like, you know, running through, like ticking off items. I am a little disappointed at the fact that we won't have that cool spinning drone shot though. Like that's like one of my favorite things, is when you climb up to the top of these towers and you see that, like, you know, that spinning drone shot, you see the whole world around you and those like cool landscapes. It's a little disappointing that's going to go away, but I am interested that they're trying something new, which seems to be a very important theme for Assassin's Creed Shadows overall, right? Like a lot of the stuff we've touched on today and things we've heard about in other interviews is that they are trying new things with the seasons, the way light's going to interact with stealth, obviously these synchronization points, obviously the two protagonists here that play completely differently. So lots of things to think about with Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm definitely interested and will be keeping my keen eyes on the future of Assassin's Creed Shadows. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Naoe, and I hope you have a great day.